Hi Year 3. Today we'll be analysing the components of a good author, and I will be using persuasive language. Who do you think is an amazing author and why? What stands out for you about your chosen author? Think of a favourite book that you've read and think why you really enjoyed it. Pause the video. I'm now going to use persuasive language. Notice the types of words that I'm using. I have been thinking about why I absolutely adored one author when I was about your age. For me, his stories have absolutely stood the test of time, as they are still loved and read by children today. In fact, all of you have heard at least one of his stories, and many of you will have read some of his other stories. I have been reading some of his stories with my wonderful son, who is about your age, which tells me that after over 20 years, his stories do not fail to delight. I am going to try and explain the things that I think make his stories so special and why he is such a unique author. I love the language he uses. He makes up strange and unique, ridiculous words that make me smile. I love the way he describes the characters in his story and creates such absurd, imaginative characters. One example is where there is a married couple who, instead of loving each other, try to cause each other misery in the most strange and hilarious ways. I absolutely love his unique imagination. In fact, I think he is a genius. Many authors today have tried to use some of his ideas, but for me, they don't shine as much as he does. He's probably the best children's author to have ever graced our planet. So have a look at some of the language I've used. You can pause the video and just have a look at this now. Welcome back. What did you notice? Can you guess who this author is? Have I persuaded you that it is definitely worth you reading books by this author? Yes or no? Can you explain why? Pause the video. Well, if you hadn't guessed, the author is Roald Dahl. And I know that in Year 2 you did some learning around Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and you read this as a class. So if you think back to that time and you think back to that story, what do you remember? Did you like the language that Roald Dahl used in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is the first positive thing I said about his writing? Did you think he described characters and created characters in a really interesting way? And finally, did you think that he was really imaginative, that he had original ideas? As you've been learning about poetry last week, and you were listening to some nonsense rhymes, I thought that I could read you a rhyme by Roald Dahl, and it's from the book Revolting Rhymes, which is illustrated by Quentin Blake. I hope you enjoy it. Little Red Riding Hood and the Wolf. As soon as Wolf began to feel that he would like a decent meal, he went and knocked on Grandma's door. When Grandma opened it, she saw the sharp white teeth, the horrid grin, and Wolfie said, "May I come in?" Poor Grandmamma was terrified. "He's going to eat me up," she cried. And she was absolutely right. He ate her up in one big bite. But Grandmamma was small and tough, and Wolfie wailed, "That's not enough. I haven't yet begun to feel that I have had a decent meal." He ran around the kitchen yelping, "I've got to have another helping," then added with a frightful leer, "I'm therefore going to wait right here till little Miss Red Riding Hood comes home from walking in the wood." He quickly put on Grandma's clothes. Of course, he hadn't eaten those. He dressed himself in coat and hat. He put on shoes, and after that he even brushed and curled his hair, then sat himself in Grandma's chair. In came the little girl in red. She stopped, she stared, and then she said, "What great big ears you have, Grandma." "All the better to hear you with," the wolf replied. "What great big eyes you have, Grandma," said Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to see you with," the wolf replied. He sat there watching her and smiled. He thought, "I'm going to eat this child. Compared with her old Grandmamma, she's going to taste like caviar." Then Little Red Riding Hood said, "But Grandma, what a lovely great big furry coat you have on." "That's wrong," cried Wolf. "Have you forgot to tell me what big teeth I've got?" "Ah, well, no matter what you say, I'm going to eat you anyway." The small girl smiles. One eyelid flickers. She whips a pistol from her knickers. She aims it at the creature's head, and bang, 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 she shoots him dead. A few weeks later, in the wood, I came across Miss Red Riding Hood. But what a change! No cloak of red, no silly hood upon her head. She said, "Hello, and do please note my lovely furry wolfskin coat." I hope you enjoyed that, hearing that rhyme as much as I enjoyed reading it. Have a think about what you liked about the poem, if you did like it, and see what your opinion is and why. When you've done that, think about what words you need to clarify, what words didn't you understand. You can list them in a table like I've done here and look them up using Dr. Google. Okay, so one of the first ones I came across that I thought you may not understand is the word decent. Find out what that means, and are there other similar words to the word decent that have the same meaning and are similar. So you can put those in the synonyms part of the table. Another word, caviar. If you go back to the poem as well, to the rhyme, and find the lines with the word caviar in, have a look. So it's just over here, and you can see, compared with her old Grandmamma, she's going to taste like caviar. So if we think about the context of this, would Grandma have tasted nice? If we go back, let's have a look. But Grandmama was small and tough. Okay, small and tough. Is that positive or not? So if we look at the context of that, do we think caviar is something that is meant to taste nice or not? Look at what caviar is. You might be quite surprised about the meaning of that word. And that will give you a clue, okay? And the other word I've got on here is leered. So you might not know what that means. Again, you can go back into the poem and see if you can find where that word is. Yelped might be another one. Okay, so just go through and do that after we've finished. Go back through. The third question I'd like you to think about is, how does this poem differ to the original fairy tale? What's similar and how is the plot different? Okay. Do you think that makes it effective? If so, how? What is effective about this poem? So you can post your answers up on DB Primary once you've written those. So I think Roald Dahl is an amazing author. I think that was an amazing rhyme. Let me know what you think. Did I persuade you that his books are worth reading or not? You have to let me know. Finally, I've put some recommendations together for some books that you may enjoy. I've read Ada Twist Scientist. I've got some of these books myself. Okay, Professor Puffendorf's Secret Potions. There's some longer ones here. This one's a comic type book. Tom Fletcher, he's very good writer. Okay, so have a look at some of these if you're stuck. There's lots of books out there to enjoy. I hope you've been reading lots and lots, or as much as you can. And that is the end for today of our lesson on Roald Dahl. Okay, so have a lovely day and speak to you soon.